it's Mr. Joey Sassy Fontenay with another episode of MMA Power Talk. This time we're going way to the beginning. Ooh, ladies first. That's right. This lady right now, as far as I know in the history of kickboxing, karate, kung fu, tournaments, promotions, teaching, etc., was the first lady, as I speak to anyone who knows anything about martial arts. She represented not just as a competitor in fighting forms of weapons, but sometimes had to compete even against men. She comes from a legendary lineage, and when it's all said and done, not only is she a mother, and she's a mother of a pretty famous martial artist himself, but to hear it from her, it would be a lot better. In addition to that, she's an epitome, the good example of what it would take to be timeless. You have a timeless mind, ageless body, and if you look it up in Wikipedia, you will see Grandmaster, Malia, Bernal, Decascos, whatever you want to call it. All I say is, ma'am, thank you very much for your presence. Are you there?
I'm here, Jerry. How are you this fine day?
I am so blessed that I'm alive and excited to get an opportunity to speak to you. As being a fan of historian and martial arts, I get a chance to get the number one lady. So I'm excited.
Well, that's very kind of you to say that. Thank you. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. Because what this is all about is really all about you. So what I'll do is I'll ask you, what was your inspiration, desperation, or motivation to begin even in the martial arts? Now, if for some reason you don't hear me, it's because I put myself on mute, so you have the mic. So in the beginning, the year and the motivation to start.
Well, actually, the beginning for me, it was a birthday gift. I came from a family that had a lot of brothers and sisters. I was the baby, and they used to beat me up a lot, play beating. But when I got older, my family thought it would be good if I learned the right way, the technique of fighting. And so they gave the young girl who had everything, I was in my 20s then, a gift to go find a martial arts school that I wanted to take lessons from and sign up. So that was actually my beginning. I had no clue what martial arts was all about. I just know, okay, I went to the neighborhood strip mall, and there's always a karate school there. So I went in and looked and talked to them, and I thought, no, this is not for me. And then each school I went to, they would tell me, there's other styles of the art, maybe it's really better for you. Until I finally ran into the Kung Fu school, of which I did join up. But when I saw the Kung Fu movement, the Kung Fu lessons, the style, the technique, everything about the flow of the movement, I knew it was for me. So that was how I got started in the art.
That's phenomenal. So, and it's interesting because I personally started in 1974. So what was the approximate year that this career started in?
Well, let's see, I must have started, when did I move to Europe? I had to have started in the 60s, like 1966 or somewhere. I truly am. I've been in the arts a very long time. I must have started back then.
I was born in 1966. I'm getting ready to be 50. So if that's the case, then you've been doing this a little bit more than half your life, a lot more than that, So and it's pretty incredible because when it's all said and done, what we're talking about here, or talking to people who are listening to, we're looking at not forefather, but the foremother of a variety of stuff. And I just forgot that you were able to also travel over to Europe and have, I believe Germany was the place, and have the style expand over there. But just to have a chronological consistency, do you remember when and what motivated you to even start, not just participating in the class, but teaching? Or let's go into when you went from your experience in that class and then becoming an actual teacher.
Well, actually, when you start, teaching is the furthest thing from your mind. Entering competition is the furthest thing from your mind. You're just anxious to start and learn what you signed up for. Self-defense and whatever it is they had to offer. And fortunately for me, I was an athlete to begin with. I had a choice. I either had to make a decision. I was either going to go into water skiing because I always wanted to be on the United States water ski team way back then, or after I got involved in Kung Fu and the tournament circuit, I realized, wow, this is a whole new avenue for women, whereas in water skiing, there were already a lot of women water skiing. And so I decided I was going to stick with martial arts. Now, I had a very strong, powerful body because since a little girl, I've always worked out. I grew up on a farm. Mama always had me working out. I knew no other way of life. So when my sifu, Al Decascos at that time, signed me up, later he told me in the back of his mind he was very excited because he felt he finally had a female joining the school that was going to be strong and powerful and perhaps be able to take his style of Kung Fu and expose and show people what it was all about. And, of course, I was only in the school maybe 6 weeks at that, and Al threw me in my first tournament. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know. He just said, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you. So he showed me all right. But it was natural for me to be able to fight coming from a baby in a family. So kicking and punching and had strong legs, strong arms, all of that was easy. Of course, I got disqualified for my first 6 tournaments because I didn't know anything about control. And I probably don't know much about control today because that was part of our art. We weren't taught control. But anyhow, to make a long story short, he took me back to the training room and he taught me what it's like to fight in tournaments. And while I was out there fighting in tournaments, my eyes were open to the fact that there was more to the art than just fighting. I saw men doing kata and doing weapon forms and all these really cool things. And so I had asked Al, I said, I wanted to do it all. I'd like to learn to do it all. So I was very fortunate that I did. He did teach all to me, and I was very fortunate that I loved tournaments. Very fortunate that I was able to take what I learned to become number one in United States, and I held it probably for 5 years before they did another rating system. But when I went through the whole cycle of being a student and then a competitor, I began to realize all the things that I would like to see done differently in teaching a student. And with my teacher's permission, he allowed me to teach and to change a few things that I thought would be helpful. And so I began my road to become a teacher, and I love teaching. I still do it today. I still have students that go into competition. So there isn't anything about the art that still doesn't excite me. The only difference is, when I started in the art very long ago, I was so fortunate to have been able to travel all over the United States because way back then, who on earth would have known Chuck Norris would become Chuck Norris, or Joe Louis, or Howard Jackson, or Roy Curbin, or Bill Wallace, Demetrius Evanis, all these great guys way back then. They were just like me, just fighting in a tournament, not really knowing where their future was going to go. So for me, there's a lot of people that only can read about these people, but for me, I actually knew them because we traveled circuit to circuit, tournament to tournament, and I got to see them fight. We became friends. I also got to meet a lot of the women, although I must say the men were always a lot more friendlier than the women. And I don't mean that in a flirtatious way. I only mean the men respected what I was doing, and they knew I came there to try to expose that women could do this. And, yes, I met. We're fighting in Northern California. When you fight in the same place forever, you fight the same people, compete against the same form people, the same weapon people. After a while, you don't want to do it anymore. So that was when I was able to get permission to start going into men's division in form. And so traveling all over the United States, I was able to I went into George Corley's tournament. I went into every tournament I could think of that I would go into. Did I win all those tournaments? Absolutely not. But I must say I did win all those tournaments in form because that was my love, form. When I went to fight in Oklahoma, Texas, any of the states out of California, it was a whole other way of fighting. In order to be able to fight like that, I'd have to stay and fight those girls on a more than a one-time basis. But I had utmost respect for the women in the South and the women from Texas and everybody I met along the way. I was so privileged to have toured and gone to Europe because of the art. If it hadn't have been for the art, I would have never known Linda Lee. I would have never traveled to Europe. I would have never been on the U.S. team that went with Mike Anderson to Berlin and to perform my art. I haven't had nothing but a positive experience from martial art. It took me, and it did exactly what the art should do. It developed my character, my soul, my spirit, my fighting ability. It gave me courage and confidence to do almost anything that I'm asked to do today. So what more could one ask for out of the art? I also have no problem in talking.
you know something? I am, and again, for those people who are listening, my nickname is Fassy, right? So Jerry Fassy Fontenay. I was fortunate enough to be involved in martial arts in 1974, and my instructor was Sang Soo Tiger Kim, which is Korean style, is pretty well known. But just about all the people that you mentioned, I've been so fortunate to either have breaking bread with them, interview them, or their disciples. For example,
that's fabulous.
Master Joe Corley and I, we're not just friends. He's considered like my uncle. I was just with him last week, and I've been with him for the last 5 months, helping him do some endeavors, bringing back the PKA again. So I've been helping with that from a technological standpoint. When you mentioned someone like Demetrius, the Greek Havana, who passed away, but his students, whether it was Ray McCallum,
absolutely, but he's not forgotten.
Right, but I interviewed all of his students. So basically, this is what really comes down to. I love the movie The 300. Phenomenal movie. So if I had an opportunity to put together my army of 300 people, Grandmaster, you're one of them. You're on my team. Even though I never personally met you, I know your history pretty well because I'm a student of the martial arts in general. And when it's all said and done, let me just say this. So if I mention Christian Wolf is one of the forefathers out there in Europe. I believe he's a descendant and student of One Hyap Chondoro, if I'm pronouncing it correct. And I believe the guys come from a similar Kaju Kempo background or something within those like. I also know that a Karen Turner and a Karen Shepard are also students of.
All of them. I have taught. I developed them. They would. Yeah,
and Eric Lee, the Kata King, was a student of yours. So people who are listening to understand this. Here at Dojine, we find the real deal people. Not calling anyone here a horse or Mr. Ed, but the fact is that those who've been there, done that, and the truth is here. I just watched the video of you, Miss, and you found how to become, as Deepak Chopra says, have a timeless mind and ageless body because your triceps still have the definition that 20-year-olds are envying. So kudos to you, even though you don't need them, but I'm so excited and proud. But I'm going to tap into your brain to get a little more specific because I want to find out when someone like a Karen Turner, who I believe is the predecessor to a Karen Shepard, both your students, when did she join and what happened? And not only were you the competitor, the instructor, but it's really the legendary competitor and legendary instructor of legendary students, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. It's marvelous to have students. I have the students in Germany. I had, I taught my son Mark along with his father teaching Mark, but I taught Mark all his basics and foundations. I've taught Christian Wolf. I was his first teacher, actually. I think he did judo, and then he came to me, and I developed him to where he became prime material, Karen Sherford, children. I mean, goes on and on and on. And, when I was younger, they used to ask me to do a lot of interviews and ask me questions, and I'd say, no. But, now that I'm older, to me it feels like I already did the walk, so now I'm able to do the talk. Because there's so many people that can only talk but never have been in the shoes of a competitor. And I have been up and I have been down. I've been liked and I've been hated. But the one thing I can say is that there's a lot of people that could only read about John Natividad or there's Benny Quaid's, Bung Yu. All of those. They only can read about them, but it's such a great feeling to know that you can ask anyone of the past, do they know me? And they all, I believe, would say something good and positive about me, because I have had no bad rapport with any of the martial art men from the past. They were all nothing but kind and generous, and I learned so much from them, and they were full of fun. So yes, now that I still teach, but I've gone into a different thing. I have this new thing I'm doing that's called Spend an Afternoon with Malia. And the reason I do this is because there's a lot of people that I have met along my journey that, they have so many questions. Why this? How did you do this? What can we do there? So I decided I was going to have to spend an afternoon with Malia. It can either be a one-on-one, it can be a workshop, it can be whatever. But I am working on that right now, and I have found that through talk, I have been able to get a lot out of a person rather than through the actual physical teaching of it. Sometimes if you talk to them and explain and show them and make them feel comfortable and maybe help them overcome whatever it is that they feel uncomfortable with, you can get much more from that person. So besides working on Spend an Afternoon with Malia, I also started this fun thing. I have this Events Unlimited that I actually just started, but I'm going to be doing a lot of different events. And my first event is a roast where I will be roasting Cynthia Rothrock. And that will be next year, August 13th, 2016. But all the great women I've met along the way, I want to honor them in it'll be a roast of a different toast. But it will be a roast that I would hope everybody attends, because it's going to be a fabulous evening of laughter, entertainment, and really making a hot seat for Cynthia to have to sit in. So my martial arts have allowed me to meet all these wonderful people. And you know what? Even though I'm so much older than a lot of them, I don't feel any older than them, and I don't sometimes think I look any older than them. My body is still, I work hard with what I have today. And you know what, Jerry, most people have to understand, they think suddenly you get to be 50, 60, 70, they're going to get in great shape. People have to understand when you're a teenager and you go 20, 30, it's a lifestyle. It has to follow you every day of your life. You can't just wake up one day, although you can wake up one day and say, I'm going to start training. But if you just make it part of your lifestyle, like brushing your teeth every day, training every day, it's no big hassle. You just do it. And if you don't do it, you feel like there's something wrong. So for me, I have never given up training. I just don't do the arts. There's more to life than just kung fu and martial arts. I windsurf, snow ski, water ski. I do my jogging. I love sport. I'm one that likes to participate rather than a spectator. But yes, I want people to understand that, you have to start young, and I want people to understand it's never too late. And I want people to understand that I'm here to help in any way I can. And so to be able to be on your show and talk a little bit about this, I truly thank you.
Well, it's my sincere pleasure, but let me just tell you this. Martial arts being a family that obviously as dysfunctional as any family, we have different shades and colors and experiences. And I believe that you're born into relatives, a family you choose, a family chooses you. So, I get blown away because throughout the 1980s and 90s and even up until recently, I was fortunate enough to win a few world championships, United States and abroad. And being a Puerto Rican from the Bronx made me kind of a minority, because besides Luis Delgado, rest in peace, and a handful of other people, not too many New Yorkers were really exposed to the national and international competitions. But being an avid reader and fan of martial arts, there was always a minority of what would be women. But not only that, the diversity of that woman to go into different aspects. For example, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that you went from what would have been martial arts competition and instruction, local and national and international. But in addition to that, if I'm correct, if I remember, there was you and your son working at Universal Studios doing some stunts or a live show of like Conan the Barbarian or something like that. Am I wrong?
Actually, that was not me. That was my student, Karen Shepard.
Oh, I apologize. But I think what threw me off was because she was with Mark, I believe. It might have been your son, right?
No, she was fabulous, and she was fabulous. She just, she was the perfect part for Red Sonja, and she and Mark, they looked so great up there. No, that was Karen, who was a student that nobody will ever forget. No one will ever forget Cynthia. They'll never forget Karen Shepard. They'll never forget Karen Turner. They'll never forget Linda Dentley. They'll never forget Phyllis Evans. They'll never forget Janice Miller, even though she has passed. They will never forget Monster Man Eddie. Who could forget him? Or Jim Harrison, or any of these guys. There just happens to be a group of people in the art from the past and the present that people just don't forget. I'm so happy that I know Mike Stone, and John Natividad. These guys, and Danny Garcia, oh my gosh, a lot of people don't know him, but these are fabulous people. So,
well, you know
yes,
what?
That was
I apologize for that, but this is what happens, just so you know. When I see them, I see you. So that's where the confusion came in. And then when your son was there, because I'm paraphrasing because let's just be honest. If it wasn't for your leadership, there's a good possibility those ladies would have never been exposed to and done what they did. And I'm not discrediting anybody, but I just want to make sure that everybody gets credit where it's due.
Absolutely.
And I'm a fan of them all. However, you mentioned someone named Mike Stone, who he's the only one of two people that I ever allowed to do a seminar in my school when I had my school was plural back in the 1990s and 200s. And I had him and his wife in the projects of the Bronx having the best Italian food you can have in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah. And what was interesting was that he was also a very good friend of mine, of a gentleman who I hired to do my public relations, who was also a mentor to me, Grandmaster Aaron Banks.
Yes.
Obviously passed away, but
yes.
But this is where I get an opportunity. Now, when you mention all those people who are still alive, that's my goal. I want people to find out about the pioneers and legends that are still alive that sometimes we walk right past without knowing. For example, I was at the Battle of Atlanta this year, which is obviously Master Joe Corley's tournament, and I was interviewed by two of the so-called modern-day media for martial arts. And it was a bittersweet feeling because they passed by at least 15 people that should have been interviewed way before me. And I said, never again am I going to let that happen if I can. So my goal is I started this thing called the Martial Arts Media Association. So I'm going to get all the different magazines and anyone who's trying to expose martial arts and help them with their social media, with their what would be apps and mobile sites and websites, because that's one of my specialties that I'm doing for the PK for Master Joe Corley. But my point is that if 100 people were doing what I'm doing right now, we still don't have enough people to report all those wonderful stories that people have, and no one even talked to them about it. I mean, come on, let's be real. Christian Wolf not only competed in Europe, but he came to the United States and won. And he's one of the...
I brought him here. I brought Christian to the United States.
I know that, but most people don't even know who Christian Wolf is, and I'm going to interview him too, because these people, I refuse to, if it's possible, to let things like that happen. There's people walking around feeling like old men and women that used to be when they are pioneers and legends that still are. And that's my complete, honest belief and truth. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and those people's lives have motivated me, and it saddens me to say that every year that goes by, most of them are gone, or a lot of them are leaving. I mean, you mentioned the roast. The second you mentioned the roast, I think about Gary Lee, and I think he roasted you. And he
roasted me all right. He cremated me. I am not at all, at the time all that happened. I mean, Gary Lee did a wonderful, he gave me a fabulous birthday party. He gave me a beautiful roast. The whole affair was absolutely lovely. And to me, unbeknownst, and all this would happen 6 or 7 months later, but I thank Gary Lee for that roast.
Yeah.
Because of that roast, I met so many beautiful people from Texas. I met Marion and Cheryl, who are now my students and best friends, and actually they're on my committee. They're part of my dream team for the roasts I'm going to be doing in the future. I had been out of the art for a long time because it was my choosing to stay out of the art. And Gary Lee kind of opened up the door again, put me back in there. And it was amazing after being away from social media and the press and all of that for so many years. It was like I never left. Nobody forgot. Everybody still remembered who I was. He opened up doors. I never in my life thought I would be on a wanted poster. That's funny. I have that poster that Joy Tuberville made of me, her and Mikey Rowe. Made this wanted poster and wanted to beat me up. And it was hysterical. At first I was angry at everybody because I thought, how can they love me last year? And just a matter of months, everybody's saying that I couldn't fight my way out of the paper bag. Or they said that they said that at my roast, I said I didn't fight men because what's the point? I could beat them up. What I said was I enjoyed competing against men and beating them, and I was referring to Kata. Because anybody who knows me knew I loved competing against men because it was a challenge to be able to win. I would never in a million years say I didn't fight men because what's the point? I could beat them up. Am I insane? Am I stupid? Although I will say there are a few men I'm sure I could beat up. But I did not say that at the roast, and I was so sad that somebody took something out of context and turned it into this and turned it into a big thing. But no, anybody who knows me who knew I loved to compete against men. It was an honor to compete. And, I don't know if you're aware of the fact, but in Kata they had PK, I think it was PK Magazine or Association or whoever it was, had a top 10 list in form in Kata, the top 10 men. And I was number 4. Heidi Oche was number 1. Eric Lee was number 2. I don't remember who was number 3. I was number 4. And then all the other men below made up the top 10 list. Do you know what an honor that was for me to do that? That was absolutely amazing. I didn't even know that I had been rated. Somebody sent it to me. And I thought, oh, my gosh, what an honor. But no, all this crap that went on with Gary Lee, I'm not angry at Gary Lee at all. I just feel sorry that all that had to happen, and he ruined a beautiful friendship. I had utmost respect for Gary Lee and what he does. I loved his wife. His wife was absolutely fantastic, and his mother-in-law, the whole family was so good. As to what happened to Mikey Rowe and to Joy Tuberville and the others that decided to drag me through the mud, I feel sorry for them that they felt they had to do that to me. But I'm
apologize for them, even though I don't know who they are, and I'm not even sure all the particulars. But let me just say this. Inside Karate Magazine cover with you and Mark, that is a classic like this called Raw Force. That's the picture that I think confused me into thinking that you was doing the show with him because it looks like you're in,
yeah.
The cover, that was a wonderful looking cover. Oh my God! And look at that hot mama. Oh, excuse me. My gosh. Jeez.
Yeah, the cover that's I have bushy hair, don't I?
Oh, you got you got hair like you used from New Jersey today. Big hair, baby.
I had on. Is that where I'm dressed skimpy? Is that the cover?
Yeah. This is a family show here, but this just barely there. Yeah, that's, oh my God.
I remember when that came. That's my other son. That's Mark, my other son, Chris, and me.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I used to threaten my kids I was going to turn that magazine cover into our Christmas card, and they would have a heart attack. Mom, don't you dare do that! And I said, yeah, I'm going to say Merry Christmas and send that out. But the wonderful opportunity, and in fact, I still hope that there comes a day where I can do a movie with my son Mark. You know, as long as my body keeps kicking and punching, and I can keep running and keep all the legs and arms going forward, you know, there's always that possibility. You never know. But yes.
But let me just say this. Those of you who are listening, you may know Mr. Seafood, whatever you want to call him, I'm not sure the proper terminology or title, Mark Decascos. He's not just the guy from Only the Strong who starred in that movie, but he's also been the host of Iron Chef. You know, this guy's a phenomenal, not just martial artist, but he's had a chance to be in the entertainment world, the roughest industry in the world for quite a while, for quite a few decades. And that's one of her boys.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I was really fortunate to have had Al Decascos as my first instructor. I've had other instructors along the way that taught me weapons or, you know, whatever I wanted to learn, they would teach me. But I was really fortunate to have started in Kung Fu. And when I saw Kung Fu, I knew that this free-flowing style was for my body type. I was very fortunate to have a son like Mark, who is a lot like his mother in a lot of ways, because he never stops training. I don't care what hurts, he keeps going. He's open to learning. And my other son, he is a very successful businessman. I'm just blessed to have a happy family. But you know what is really even a blessing to me is that even though Al is my ex-husband, and, you know, you go up and down, he's still my friend. And you know, how can you hate a man that you know gave you all the wonderful things in life from the martial art world and your children and a beautiful traveling around the world doing? How could you possibly hate this man who gave you all that? You know, and I'm a very religious person. If God can forgive me for all I do wrong, I certainly can forgive all those that do something wrong to me, because you know what, Jerry, I know who I am. People can say whatever they want about me, but I know who I am, and I can walk in any room with my head held up high and feel really positive and good about myself. And what more could I ask for than that?
Well, that's an amen to that. What's really fascinating here is I just found a photo of Mama, I'm not sure what they call you, actually coaching Mark in competition. And that right there, I'm a father of 5. My oldest is 32 years old, and I'm 49 years young. And
baby.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, and my son is Jerry Fontenez III. My son is Jerry Fontenez II. I'm actually competing in the Pan American International Tournament, Manny Reyes Seniors event, which is a big tournament, November 7th of this year. So I want to make sure I lead by example. But there's a photo here that I want to talk about, if you don't mind, because if it wasn't for this gentleman, I probably would have never learned how to do fakes and reposition and angular attacks, and even learn the mental strategies of sparring. And that's, rest in peace, Mr. Joe Lewis. Let's talk about him for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Lewis.
Okay.
There's a photo of you and him, and you guys are smiling. And it's kind of hard to have him smile, by the way. And there you go. You got the photo, and he's smiling. What can you say about Joe Lewis? I want to, in terms of his competition or whatever it is. Oh. Hello. I'm not sure if the young lady has left the building. It could be an accident. I'm not sure. I'll double check here. It seems like she left at 2:30. Okay, I'm sure she'll chime back in. But you're speaking to the legendary Malia Decascos, Bernal, phenomenal. This lady has so much energy. She's a true example of possibility. I have the honor to interview her. I'm fascinated by it. By accident, she must have got cut off, which is okay. I'm going to wait until she gets back on. But, you know, she literally, not only as a competitor that could school her, I mean, this lady is the epitome of what I would consider a true martial artist. You know, in her 70s right now, she's still young, full of energy and vigor, as you guys can hear right there. And in addition to that, her body looks phenomenal. I mean, she really, really is what I would consider a true example of what a grandmaster would not only sound like, look like, but even move That's a videotape that's going to be put onto the bottom of this page, and in that videotape, you get a chance to actually see her doing some kung fu moves, which is, it's easier to show you than to explain it to you, because she literally really has some triceps that any 20-something-year-old or even teenager would be envious of having. And, we're doing these power talks for the purpose of helping people find out the truth. And the truth is that there are pioneers and legends in the martial arts industry that literally have not been recognized for things that they actually did. And that really hurts me, and that's the reason, or one of the reasons why I'm doing this, along with the 300, which is my personal, best, or that will go into war with me. So, again, we're doing the power talk with Grandmaster Malia Decascos, from the Decascos Bernal, Mr. Sifu, Mark Decascos' mother, and former wife of Al Decascos, another legend himself, who was a phenomenal fighter, in addition to other things. But, and as we're doing the conversation, she got cut off. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but what we're going to do is we're going to